Hey cyber gangsters. So what I want to review today is requirement 6.5. 6.5 says address common coding vulnerabilities in software development processes as follows. Train developers at least annually in up-to-date secure coding techniques. Include how to avoid common coding vulnerabilities. And develop applications based on secure coding guidelines. There is a note stating the vulnerabilities listed at 6.5.1 through 6.5.10 were current with industry best practices when this version of PCI DSS was published, specifically talking about PCI DSS 3.2.1. However, as industry best practices for vulnerability management are updated, for example, the OWASP guide, SANS CWE Top 25, Search Secure Coding, etc., the current best practices must be used for these requirements. Essentially what this is saying is as you have coders that are building the code for programs and hardware and everything else, that they have to know what they're building, right? Obviously, they have to know that there are some vulnerabilities that exist, and to make sure that as they code, that they're able to plug those holes up so that it doesn't get released into production and essentially cause any harm in production. Now that's a lot of words. Let me see if I can break down a little bit better. For example, a real practical explanation of this that I can figure out would be, imagine how the flu shots work, right? Every year we're told to get a flu shot so that we can mitigate the risk of getting sick that year, right? And the process for getting a flu, for choosing how to get the flu, which flu to vaccinate against, because there's multiple types. There's an organization group that decides which flu may be most prevalent in this year. Based on that information, they'll go ahead and create a vaccine for that flu type and send that out for everyone to get a flu shot on. And then we repeat the process the following year. So it's not the same flu every year. It's not the same flu shot every year. It's always been changed to address that flu for that year. And that's how coding is. So coding, we get every year, we have to make sure that we code according to this industry best practices. Once we code something and release it into production, there are people who can find ways to get into that code and exploit. That's the word I'm looking for. Exploit the vulnerability found in there, right? We didn't know it existed during the testing phase. It's out in production, and now they know. And so the industry figures that out. Now the response would be create a patch so that that can be resolved now. But for the future, the reason that this requirement says to train annually is so that the developers can get that information and make sure that the following year when they create new code for either updates for the software or hardware or new code for new products, that they can insert those new industry best practices into their coding. And that way when those get released, they won't have the same vulnerabilities as the previous years. Okay? So that's why that's important. Anyhow, thank you very much.